My name is Clara Renteria, and I'm 32. I make a living in risk assessment, modeling variables, assigning probabilities, and deciding what a sane person should do when feelings try to hijack the wheel. It's a useful job. I just wish I'd applied it to my own life sooner. My boyfriend, Aiden Vance, is 29. We'd been together a little over 3 years, living in my condo, the last one. The first 2 years were simple and good. Late dinners, road trips that smelled like coffee and cut grass, meeting families, the usual negotiations about closet space and whose turn it was to dust the TV stand. Then, 8 months ago, Aiden got promoted to junior marketing manager at a large pressed shirt insurance corporation. I was proud of him. He looked taller walking into rooms he used to sidle into. It started with a name, Victoria. Victoria thought my deck was crisp, like best in years crisp. Victoria took the team to the Monley after the pitch. Victoria says my instinct for consumer timing is rare. I'm not an insecure woman. I like when people shine. But praise that loops, the same orbit, eventually turns into a buzz in your skull. I told myself it was just a new boss honeymoon. Then, 3 months ago, the joke began. My work wife grabbed me a cold brew again. She's dangerous, he'd smirk, dropping his tie on our kitchen chair like a flag he'd planted on the moon. At this rate, my work wife and I might finish each other's sentences, he said, scrolling, like the line was a compliment for both of them. I tried to tap the brakes, gently. Aiden, the work wife thing is weird. She's your boss. He rolled his eyes. Come on, Clara, don't be one of those jealous girlfriends. It's an office joke. It's networking. A week later, we were at a place I'd picked and paid for. Dim light, forks that clinked like soft coins, lemon on the salmon done right for once. His phone lit his face while I chewed in silence. Finally, he looked up and grinned the way a kid looks at a mirror after trying on a costume. Insane day, he said. Victoria approved my spring budget and bought me lunch again. 3rd time this week. She takes care of her people. He leaned back, let the silence grow, then went for the punchline. Honestly, my work wife is buying me lunch every day. You need to step up. He laughed, like it was the funniest thing he'd said all month. I stared at him. All the little flags I'd filed as probably fine rose in a red bouquet. The late-night team chats, the sudden need to be out on brand-building runs, the way he said Victoria's name like it carried a keycard to every locked door. My job is risk assessment, and the risk I was assessing, right there between the salmon and the check, was that my boyfriend was at best soaking in the attention of his married-to-the-company female boss, and at worst, rehearsing for a life where I paid the utilities while he auditioned for a new household. I felt something unexpected, calm. The hurt tucked itself behind a pane of glass. The air sharpened. I smiled back, small and even. You're right, I said. That's very generous of her. I should thank her. For the first time that night, his smirk twitched. What? Don't be weird. I'm serious, I said lightly. It's nice to know someone is taking care of you at the office. I'll step up. He went back to his phone. I went back to my meal and began planning. The next morning, I made coffee and a list. 10 minutes of research. His LinkedIn confirmed Victoria Stilton, Senior VP, Marketing. A search turned up a family photo on a public page. 2 kids in life jackets on a lake. More importantly, Aiden's company was publicly traded. Public companies post their code of conduct. I found the PDF in 2 clicks. I skimmed until the words I needed were bold enough to have a pulse. Personal relationships in the workplace. Manager/subordinate relationships are strictly prohibited. Even the appearance of such a relationship triggers investigation and potential termination. Excessive gifts or personal benefits exchanged between managers and direct reports, fireable offense. They'd built a fence. I didn't have to shove anyone through it. All I had to do was turn on the lights. I ordered a $50 Starbucks gift card. I ordered a bland, professional thank you card. White, polite, the kind of card that won't laugh at the wrong time. When they arrived the next day, I wrote in my neatest handwriting, Dear Ms. Stiltons, I'm writing to send a small, sincere thank you for the support you've been giving my boyfriend, Aiden Vance. He mentions you all the time, especially how you've been kind enough to buy him lunch almost every day. In this busy world, it's wonderful to know he has such a supportive and generous manager looking out for him. Thank you for taking such good care of him. All the best. Clara Renteria. I tucked the gift card inside. I addressed it. Ms. Victoria Stilton, Senior VP, Marketing, to her corporate office. I mailed it on a Tuesday. The rest of the week, I was polite and distant, like a hotel lobby that smells like citrus and judgment. Aiden didn't notice. He was busy being interesting in rooms I wasn't in. Friday, 2:34 p.m. I was color-coding a spreadsheet because sometimes control is a palette. My phone buzzed. Missed call. Aiden. Buzz. Text. Call me. Right now. Buzz. Clara, what did you do? Buzz. They called me into HR. They have your card. I turned the phone over, face down, and looked at my reflection in the black glass on my monitor. I thought about my job, about variables and outcomes, about how sometimes the smallest action is a lever. I texted back, in a deep dive, can't talk, what's up? No reply, then 3 dots, then nothing. When I pulled into the condo garage at 6, Aiden's leased luxury sedan, the one I'd co-signed for, because love can make you illiterate, was parked crooked in his spot. I walked inside. He stood in the living room in full corporate armor, face blotchy, eyes bright like a dog hearing thunder. What did you do? He demanded. Hi, I said, setting my bag down. Rough day? Don't rough day me. He took a step closer. HR emergency meeting, Victoria. 2 lawyers on video. They had a card, Clara, a card from you, with a gift card in it. Why would you send that? Why would you do that? I did what I said I'd do, I said. I thanked her. You said she buys you lunch every day. I was being polite, stepping up. I let that hang between us. You don't write it down, he snapped, composure cracking. She's my manager. It's against policy. They think there's something going on. I held his gaze. Is there, Aiden? He froze. I watched comprehension arrive, slow and ugly. This wasn't a blender. It was a mirror. What are you even... He swallowed. You did this on purpose. You're trying to ruin my career. No, I said, soft but final. You did this. You and Victoria. You're the ones who built this. Look, I just turned on the light. His phone lit the room again. He glanced at it, then at me, as if the message might offer a different reality than the one we were living. Call them, he said, voice scraping. Call HR and say you're, what? Unstable. Jealous. Say you misunderstood a harmless joke. Say you're sorry. Fix it. I walked to the hall closet, pulled out his small suitcase, set it on the sofa, and unzipped it. The sound was clean as a cut. No, I said. I will not lie to a corporation's legal department for you. This is between you, Victoria, and HR. You'll want to pack your essentials. Tonight. You can't kick me out, he said, incredulous. I have nowhere to go. Your work wife, I said gently. Or Zara. I let the names land. You have options. His face changed again, panic bending toward rage. He started saying my name like an accusation. I picked up my keys. I'm getting a burger, I said, steady. You have an hour. If you're still here, I'll ask the police to escort you out. We can schedule a time for the rest of your things. The door clicked behind me. Cool night air slid into my lungs. I didn't look back. My phone buzzed in my pocket, buzzing like a trapped wasp. Then it stopped. The world sounded like tires on wet asphalt and the distant clink of someone else's dishes. Aiden wanted me to step up. So I did. When I came back an hour later, the air in my condo felt wrong. Quiet but sharp, like static before lightning. Aiden's suitcase was gone. So were half the hangers from my closet. On the counter, a note written in his sloppy handwriting. You ruined my life. I hope you're proud. There was a coffee stain over life. Typical. I folded the note once, dropped it in the trash, and exhaled. For the first time in months, I heard silence that didn't hum with someone else's phone notifications. That night, I slept like a person who had finally stopped negotiating with a lie. By Monday morning, my inbox had its own pulse. The first subject line made my stomach clench. From Aiden V. Subject: You need to fix this now. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Instead, I brewed coffee and opened the blinds. Sunlight on clean floors can feel like absolution. When the call started, first him, then an unfamiliar number, I ignored both. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Zara, his coworker and perpetual audience member for his networking brilliance. What did you do, Clara? Aiden's suspended. HR called him in again this morning. Victoria's on leave. You've completely lost it. You need to call and clear this up before you destroy 2 careers. 2 careers. Like I'd vandalized an empire instead of mailing a thank you card. I typed, then deleted, then finally sent. Zara, tell Aiden this. Integrity isn't contagious, but consequences are. Blocked. That afternoon, I called my friend Ben, a contract lawyer with the dry humor of a man who's seen too many people self-destruct over text. Ben, I said, trying to sound detached, hypothetical question. If someone mails a professional thank you note to a corporate executive, and that executive is later investigated for violating company policy, he interrupted. You're calling about your boyfriend, aren't you? Silence on my end. Don't worry, he said, chuckling. You're fine. A thank you card is not harassment. It's called evidence you didn't mean harm. If their own ethics code did the rest, that's on them. I smiled faintly. He's saying I sabotaged him. That's what people say when gravity works, Ben replied. By Wednesday, the story was circling the office grapevine. I didn't ask for details, but details arrived anyway, dripping through mutual acquaintances, anonymous DMs, and one very awkward voicemail from a former teammate of Aiden's. Clara, I don't know what you did, but HR's tearing through chat logs. Victoria's name is everywhere. Apparently, they're checking the timestamps on her corporate card lunches. You didn't hear that from me. I didn't laugh. I just sat there, realizing something strange. I hadn't done anything illegal, but I'd done something irreversible. It wasn't revenge. It was a mirror held up to behavior they'd been pretending was invisible. Thursday morning, my intercom buzzed. I frowned. No one visits me unannounced. Ms. Renteria, a deep voice said. Delivery for you. I signed for a padded envelope addressed in perfect cursive. Inside, a folded sheet of thick stationery and a business card embossed with gold letters. Arthur Vance, Managing Partner. Vance, Rothman and Klein, LLP. I didn't need to read further. Aiden's father. The letter began, Ms. Renteria, you have made a grave error in judgment and placed my son's professional reputation at risk with your vindictive actions. I strongly advise you to contact his HR department and clarify your intent before irreparable harm occurs. If you fail to do so, we will pursue appropriate legal recourse for defamation and interference with employment. I laughed, an ugly, shocked sound. Then I took a photo of the letter and sent it to Ben. His reply came 2 minutes later. Oh, this is adorable. Don't engage. Let him dig his own hole. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Clara Renteria? A clipped female voice asked. Yes? This is Elena Wright, head of HR at Meridian Insurance. I'm contacting you because your name was mentioned in a recent internal investigation involving 2 employees, Mr. Aiden Vance and Ms. Victoria Stilton. I'd like to confirm that you are not an employee of our company and that your correspondence with Ms. Stilton was purely personal. Yes, I said. It was a thank you card. Nothing more. There was a pause. Understood. For confidentiality reasons, I can't discuss details, but I appreciate your clarification. You will not be contacted again. Her tone was polite, but something about it sounded final. Ms. Wright, I asked, just one question. Does this kind of thing happen often? Another pause, then... Less often than it should, Ms. Renteria. Have a good evening. The line clicked dead. By Friday, Aiden's name vanished from the company directory. Victoria's LinkedIn went private. I didn't celebrate. I cleaned. Deep cleaned. Every drawer, every shelf. I wanted to reclaim my space molecule by molecule. At sunset, I found one of his ties still looped behind a hanger, a navy silk one I'd bought last Christmas. I stared at it for a long time. Then I cut it clean in half and dropped it into the bin with the note that said, You ruined my life. Correction, I whispered. You ruined your own. By the weekend, the silence had turned heavy, like a room full of unspoken accusations. Then the phone started again. Unknown number, another. Then Zara. You monster, her first text read. He's devastated. He's suspended, Clara. Do you even care? Then, he could lose everything. His car payment's due in 3 days. He can't afford it. Because of you. He's going to be homeless and carless. Hope your ego's happy. For a second, my stomach twisted. Then I remembered the fine print on that shiny silver sedan, the one with my name neatly printed under his. Primary signer, Clara Renteria. Co-signer, Aiden Vance. When he begged me to co-sign, he said all the right words. It's just a formality, babe. My credit's recovering. It'll be our car. I was so sure we were a we. I dialed Ben again. He answered on the first ring. What now? I co-signed Aiden's car, I said flatly. He's missed a payment window, and now Zara's telling me he's broke. He exhaled so loudly I could picture the hand over his face. Clara, you're financially responsible. You can't let him keep an asset tied to your credit, especially when he's unstable. I don't want revenge, I said. I just want out clean. Then call the leasing company, today. The woman on the customer service line was professional and oddly sympathetic. I explained the situation without embellishment. I'm the primary leaseholder. The co-signer no longer resides with me and has lost his job. He's refusing to make payments. I don't feel comfortable with him having possession of the vehicle. She clicked through her screen, her voice brisk but kind. Since you're the primary Ms. Renteria, you have options. We can arrange a voluntary repossession. That would protect your liability. A clean solution, clinical. The kind I liked. Yes, I said, please schedule it. She asked for the address. I gave Zara's. 1 hour later, my phone started to explode again. Aiden. Clara, what the hell is this? There's a tow truck here. Aiden. They're taking my car. Aiden. You can't do this. It's mine. Then the calls. Dozens of them. When I finally replied, it was a single line. It's ours, and you've defaulted. I'm protecting my credit. He fired back instantly. You heartless, how will I get to interviews? You're ruining my life. I took a breath, typed slowly. That's not my job anymore, Aiden. Ask your work wife for a ride. Then I blocked his number. It felt good for 5 minutes. Then the doubt crept in, like fog under a door. Was I cruel? Was I vindictive? Had I gone too far? I poured myself a glass of wine and opened the company ethics policy again, just to look at the line that started it all. Even the appearance of a personal relationship between a manager and subordinate. No, I decided, I wasn't cruel. I was consistent. He'd wanted me to step up. I was stepping up for myself. On Monday, Ben called. You're trending, he said. What? Not literally online, just in their circles. Word's out that Victoria's been put on official leave pending termination, and Aiden's being reviewed for conduct unbecoming. Corporate speak for dead man walking. I didn't laugh. I don't feel triumphant, Ben. Just hollow. That's normal, he said. Justice always feels quieter than you expect. 2 days later, my doorbell rang again. I froze. Then checked the peephole. A middle-aged man in a tailored suit, jaw tight, holding a manila envelope. Ms. Renteria? Yes. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Arthur Vance. I opened the door halfway. He handed me the envelope. Consider yourself served. Inside was a letterhead from Vance, Rothman and Klein, LLP. Same firm as before. Only this time, it wasn't a warning. It was a demand. Cease and desist all contact with Aiden Vance, his family, and his employer. Furthermore, remit payment of $50,000 in damages for emotional distress, defamation, and loss of income. I sat down at the kitchen counter and laughed. A real laugh, sharp and shaky. He'd escalated, and now his father wanted to bill me for it. I texted Ben a picture. His reply came in all caps. Do not worry, this is nonsense. Then a second message. I'll draft a response, they're bluffing. That night, I took a long drive through downtown, just to breathe air that didn't smell like legal paper and panic. I passed the office tower where Aiden used to work. His floor was dark. I wondered if he was sitting in some bar right now, telling a story about the crazy ex who ruined his life. But I wasn't crazy. I was just done apologizing for noticing patterns. I parked near the Riverwalk and watched the city lights tremble on the water. Maybe that's what freedom looked like. Not fireworks, not revenge, just reflection. My phone vibrated one last time before I silenced it. A private number. I didn't answer. The voicemail transcribed itself. This is to inform you that Mr. Vance's employment with Meridian Insurance has been terminated, effective immediately. I stared at the message until the words blurred. He'd finally fallen through his own cracks. And I didn't even have to push. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing like an alarm with bad intentions. Unknown number again. I let it ring out once, twice. Then, out of a strange instinct, I answered. Ms. Renteria. The voice on the other end was deep, crisp, and too sure of itself. This is Arthur Vance. I believe you've been speaking with my son. I didn't answer. I'm calling to offer you an opportunity, he continued, to correct a grievous mistake before this goes any further. You've humiliated my family. My son's career is hanging by a thread because of some petty, jealous stunt. You will contact his HR department, tell them you acted out of irrational emotion, and clear his name. Do this today, and we can avoid making this uglier than it has to be. For a man who owned half a law firm, he sure sounded like he'd skipped the threats or evidence seminar. Mr. Vance, I said calmly, I sent one thank you card. That's all. If your son's career couldn't withstand professional scrutiny, perhaps you should be asking him what else was going on. Young lady, he began. I cut him off. No, you listen. I won't lie to a corporation's legal department to cover for your son's behavior. You're a lawyer, so you should understand that word. Perjury. Good luck with your firm's reputation when your name shows up in an ethics complaint. Then I hung up. For 30 full seconds, I stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen, heart pounding, hands shaking, but smiling. For once, I hadn't folded. 2 days later, Ben emailed me a PDF. Official response drafted, sending certified mail today. I opened it. His letter was a masterpiece of precision and quiet fury. Our client, Ms. Renteria, sent one unsolicited thank you card in a good faith gesture of appreciation. The subsequent employment consequences for Mr. Vance and Ms. Stilton were the result of their own violations of company policy. Any further attempts to intimidate our client will result in a motion for sanctions. Ben's final line made me laugh. Kindly direct all future tantrums to our office. I couldn't have worded it better myself. By Friday, the story had gone corporate viral. Mutual contacts filled in the missing pieces. Victoria's personal laptop had been seized for compliance review. HR found entire chat logs, midnight messages, private jokes, even calendar invites labeled strategy dinners. Gregory Stilton, her husband, had filed for divorce. The entire department was buzzing. Aiden's final termination email hit the company's system at 4:32 p.m. Subject: immediate dismissal for conduct violating Meridian Code of Ethics. I didn't celebrate. I just sat on my couch and let it wash over me. He'd built his entire life on borrowed credibility and charm. Now, both had defaulted. That weekend, there was a knock at my door. Not the sharp kind that says delivery, but the slow, deliberate rhythm of entitlement. Through the peephole, Arthur Vance himself, in a navy suit despite the 90-degree heat, standing beside Aiden, who looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Gray hoodie, messy hair, eyes sunken from nights without excuses. I didn't open the door. I just spoke through it. You can leave whatever that is on the mat. Arthur's voice came tight and measured. Ms. Renteria, we're here to collect Aiden's property and discuss restitution. It's in everyone's best interest if you cooperate. I almost laughed. Restitution? Arthur, your son's property fits in 6 boxes, and his best interest is a therapist. Aiden's voice cracked from the other side. Clara, please, just talk to me. No, I said. You talked plenty. To Victoria, to HR, to whoever believed you were the victim. You don't get to talk now. Arthur's tone darkened. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. I smiled. You're a lawyer, Arthur. You should know the hard way needs a warrant. Goodbye. Then I turned off the lights and walked away. 3 days later, Ben forwarded me an email chain from Arthur's firm. Apparently, after receiving Ben's formal response, the Vance legal team had quietly dropped everything. No counter letter, no follow-up, just silence. Guess they realized your boyfriend's defamation case would require admitting to everything publicly, Ben wrote. I replied, ex-boyfriend, and thanks, Ben, really. He sent back a single emoji. For a week, nothing happened. I thought it might finally be over. Until Saturday afternoon, when I looked out my kitchen window and saw a black sedan idling outside my building. It was Aiden, alone this time. He didn't buzz the intercom. He just sat there for 10 minutes, staring up at my floor before driving away. No calls, no texts, just that quiet, watching presence. It didn't scare me. It clarified something. He wasn't here for reconciliation. He was here to see if I'd break. I didn't. Instead, I called the building manager, explained the situation, and requested that any visitor without permission be turned away. Then I sent Ben a message. He's hanging around the building. Should I file something? If he comes back, yes. For now, document it. He'll get bored once he realizes you're not playing. And Ben was right. By Tuesday, the sedan was gone. A week later, my phone buzzed one last time. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but curiosity won. Hey, Clara, it's Tessa, Victoria's sister. You don't know me, but thank you. My sister needed to be stopped. She's been doing this for years, mentoring her favorites. You just happened to be the one who finally called it what it was. Take care of yourself. I reread that message 3 times before deleting it. There it was, the confirmation that what I'd done wasn't cruel. It was overdue. I poured myself a cup of coffee, opened my window to let in the evening air, and whispered to no one. Sometimes the truth doesn't need applause. Just daylight. For 3 weeks, I heard nothing. No calls, no lawyers, no shadows outside my building. It was blissfully quiet. I'd started to believe the storm had finally blown itself out. Then, on a gray Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I glanced through this peephole and froze. A uniformed police officer stood outside, hands folded neatly behind his back. Behind him, on the sidewalk, was the scene I'd rehearsed in my head 100 times, but never thought I'd actually see. Aiden, eyes cold. And beside him, Arthur Vance, looking like someone had just dared to insult royalty. I opened the door a few inches. Ms. Renteria, the officer said, I'm Officer Blakely. I'm here to conduct a civil standby. Mr. Vance and his father are here to retrieve personal belongings. They're concerned you won't allow access. Of course, the final performance. They wanted a scene, one they could twist later into unreasonable ex-girlfriend loses control. I forced a calm smile. Absolutely, officer. I'm happy to cooperate. I swung the door open wider. Right there, in my foyer, were 12 neatly labeled boxes, stacked and taped. I'd packed them weeks ago. His clothes, his books, his electronics, every trace of him I could live without. The officer nodded approvingly. Ma'am, thank you. That'll make things easier. Aiden blinked. His plan had depended on chaos. That's everything you own, I said flatly. You can check the labels. He stepped forward, but his father blocked him, puffing his chest like he was entering a courtroom. There's a problem, Arthur said, turning to the officer. My son's valuable items are still inside. Ms. Renteria is withholding property, specifically a mahogany writing desk, a family heirloom worth thousands. Ah, the desk. The same antique I'd bought last summer with my own credit card, after he'd said my old IKEA one looked cheap for a woman in finance. Sir, I said calmly, if you're referring to the 1920s mahogany desk in my study, it's mine. I have the receipt right here. I pulled up my email on my phone, handed it to the officer. $2,200, Main Street Antiques. My card, my name. The officer scrolled, nodded. Valid proof of purchase. Arthur's jaw flexed. That's not the point. It was a gift for my son's future. She's keeping it out of spite. Officer Blakely's tone hardened. Sir, it's not theft if she has a receipt. Ownership of gifts is a civil matter. I'm here to prevent disturbance, not to referee property disputes. You can take the boxes and go. Arthur tried again, voice rising. You don't understand who I am. I understand, the officer interrupted, that you need to stay on the sidewalk unless you'd like me to radio my sergeant for interfering. That shut him up. Aiden stood there, humiliated, while his father's face went redder by the second. I watched as they silently loaded the boxes into the trunk of Arthur's Mercedes. The officer waited, arms crossed, until the last one was secured. When the trunk slammed shut, Aiden turned back to me, eyes glassy, voice trembling between anger and exhaustion. You'll regret this for the rest of your life, Clara. I tilted my head slightly. I already regret the last 3 years, but I'm doing something about it. For a second, he looked like he wanted to lunge forward, to rewrite the ending somehow, but Arthur grabbed his shoulder, muttered something sharp, and they both turned away. Have a good day, ma'am, the officer said quietly. You too, I replied. When the door shut behind me, I leaned against it, feeling the solid weight of peace press back. The apartment was finally mine. No toothbrush that wasn't mine. No voice criticizing the way I folded towels. No ties dangling off the sofa. Just air, just space. That night, I sat at the desk, the so-called family heirloom, and wrote a list titled Closure. Change locks. Cancel remaining shared accounts. Sell the desk. Take a trip somewhere quiet. By the next morning, the first 2 were done. By the following week, the third. A collector came by to pick up the desk. He paid $1,800 in cash. I used $1,000 to pay Ben for his time, and the rest I booked a long weekend in Santa Barbara. On the flight, I thought about how strange justice can feel. It doesn't roar, it hums. It doesn't arrive like lightning. It drips slow and steady until the truth is undeniable. Some people called what I did revenge. It wasn't. It was just cause and effect. When I returned home, the first letter waiting in my mailbox wasn't another threat. It was a plain white envelope, no return address. Inside was a typed note. Ms. Renteria, we have closed the investigation. Both subjects were found in violation of company ethics and are no longer employed. We appreciate your cooperation. HR Department, Meridian Insurance. No signature, no flourish, just confirmation that the machine had finished cleaning itself. I held the letter for a long time before tossing it into the shredder. There was nothing left to prove. 2 months passed. The quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was clean. I'd stopped checking the hallway every time the elevator chimed. The nightmares about angry phone calls had faded into dreams about beaches and spreadsheets and clean breaks. But closure has a funny rhythm. It doesn't arrive all at once. It trickles in pieces. The first piece was an email from Ben. Subject: Victory Lap. Credit repairs underway. I disputed the repossession with proof that you weren't in possession of the vehicle. Should take a few months, but you'll win. Also, Arthur's firm dropped every hint of a suit. They realized going to court would expose everything. Congrats. You survived a law firm with only one thank you card. I smiled at the phrase. Survived a law firm. It sounded like something I should embroider on a pillow. The second piece of closure came through gossip, the way it always does. A former coworker of Aiden's, someone I'd met once at a holiday party, messaged me. You probably don't want to hear this, but Victoria lost her VP title. HR found chat logs, receipts, and calendar invites that made your card look like a confession letter. She's been demoted 3 levels and transferred to compliance, basically a dead end. Her husband filed for divorce. The company cut her bonuses. It's bad. I reread it twice. And Aiden? I typed back. Fired for cause. His dad's furious, more about the embarrassment than the truth. Word is, they're not speaking. I didn't feel glee, exactly. Just the quiet satisfaction of physics doing what physics does. Actions meeting reactions. The third piece was the apartment. My condo finally felt like mine again. I'd painted the living room a warmer color, bought a bookshelf, and filled it with novels instead of tension. I sold that desk, and with the leftover cash, I replaced the couch, the one he used to sprawl across while scrolling through texts from his work wife. Now the space smelled like vanilla candles, not his cologne. One Sunday afternoon, I was reading on the balcony when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar name, Maya Perez. The message read, Hi, Clara. You don't know me, but I thought you should. I started seeing Aiden a few weeks ago. He told me you were crazy, vindictive, jealous. Then I found screenshots, messages to his boss. I Googled your name and found what really happened. I just wanted to say thank you. You saved me from learning the hard way. I stared at the message, feeling that same strange, bittersweet mixture. Part vindication, part exhaustion. I typed back. You don't owe me thanks, Maya. Just promise yourself this. When a man jokes about a work wife, don't laugh. Leave. She replied with a single heart emoji. That night, I sat by my window, the city lights flickering like quiet applause. I poured a glass of wine, put my phone face down, and whispered to no one in particular. Boundaries aren't revenge, they're instructions. In the months that followed, I focused on building something better. I joined a hiking club. I learned to cook something other than takeout noodles. I even started mentoring a few women at my firm, young analysts who reminded me of myself before I started apologizing for being observant. Sometimes they'd ask, Clara, how do you know when to walk away from something that looks good on paper? I'd smile and say, when you're the only one doing the math. One evening, I sat at my new oak desk, the one I'd built myself from a DIY kit. The grain wasn't perfect, but it was mine. A light breeze drifted in through the open window, rustling the corner of the same stationery brand I'd once used for that infamous card. The memory made me laugh softly. That tiny, polite note, 50 words and a $50 Starbucks card, had detonated an empire built on ego, entitlement, and arrogance. I hadn't sent it to destroy anyone. I'd sent it to remind someone what accountability looks like. Turns out that lesson echoed far beyond the office walls. One last email came from Ben. Final update, credit restored, all clean, HR letter officially closed, you're free. I stared at those 2 words, you're free. I turned off my laptop, walked to the balcony, and looked out at the city. Somewhere below, a street musician played a slow guitar melody that drifted up through the dusk. It sounded like relief. I whispered it out loud, almost to test how it felt on my tongue. I'm free. And for the first time, I believed it completely.